This is reported by pediatric physician Patrick Whelan. On December 8th, 2020, the U.S. Drug Administration approved vaccine. Dr. Whelan, MD, questioned it. Whelan's training is at Harvard, includes degrees in biochemistry, medicine, and rheumatology. For 20 years, he's worked in pediatric rheumatology. He currently specializes in treating children with multi-system inflammatory syndrome. In his public submission, Whelan sought to alert the FDA of the potential for vaccines designed to create immunity to the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein might instead cause injury. Specifically, Whelan was concerned about the two new mRNA vaccine technology utilized by Pfizer and Moderna has the potential of causing microvascular injury, inflammation, and small blood clots. They call it microthromboly in the heart, liver, kidneys, in ways that were not assessed in the safety trials. While that other organs may in fact be injured by these Moderna and Pfizer spike proteins that are produced by the mRNA coding, or they call it instructions. See, this is not a vaccine in the normal sense of the word. They are not using any of the actual COVID-19 RNA, but they have created a robotic type of computer-generated instructions that attach to the outer cell wall and produce on the immune cell these spike proteins, which will attract, if in fact you have these other spike proteins throughout your body, will attract the spike protein of COVID-19 to the immune cell like a lock and key antigen-antibody response. This is a brand new technology, one that has not been studied on humans, and in fact, everyone getting it now, per decree of the government, are basically we're in a huge laboratory for them to use us and our children as guinea pigs. So when people argue that vaccines are safe and effective, I always point out the SV40 vaccine, the polio vaccine given to the probably 2/3 of the children in the United States and producing long-term effects of soft tissue cancers. Nobody knows about it. Though the COVID was originally thought to be a respiratory infection, it since has become clear the infection threatens the heart too. Mr. Ashidi, a cardiologist of Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, has stated, as COVID-19 pandemic has evolved, the research has progressively demonstrated the virus impact on multiple organs of the body, including the heart. It has been reported that nearly a quarter of the people hospitalized with COVID-19 experience myocardial injury. Many develop arrhythmias and thromboembolic diseases. That's blood clotting diseases. I have many family members who are prone to these blood clotting diseases. So this is very worrisome to me. In a prospective study that followed 100 patients who recovered from COVID, the investigators found involvement of the heart on MRI scans in 78 patients and ongoing myocardial inflammation in 60%. These findings are independent of the severity of the infection. So what they're saying is you can have a minor symptoms of the infection and develop these long-term heart thrombosis and arrhythmias. In October 2020, researchers took a more detailed look at the heart after death from COVID and found cardiac damage was common, but more from clotting than inflammation, and the microthromboly small clots were frequent. Dr. Chan, a Yale cardiologist, suggests that the endothelial cells lining the blood vessels potentially release inflammatory cytokines that further exacerbate the body's inflammatory response and lead to the formation of blood clots. Chun stated the inflamed endothelium likely contributes not only to the worsening outcome of the COVID, but also to be considered to be an important factor contributing to the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Neurological complications. So let's go on down here. Individuals with COVID experience a number of neurological symptoms such as headaches, ataxia, impaired consciousness, hallucination, stroke, and cerebral hemorrhage. But autopsy studies yet to find clear evidence of the destructive and viral invasion of the patient's brains. So what they're saying is they do not find the COVID in the brain. However, they are finding the effects of what has happened in the heart, which are small blood clots causing stroke and other neurological injuries. In a more recent analysis published February 4th in the New England Journal of Medicine, researchers from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke documented microvascular injury, but no evidence of the virus in the brain. The patients who died from COVID-19, they reported in a convenience sample of patients who had died from COVID-19, multilocal myovascular injury was observed in the brain and olfactory bulbs by meaning of magnetic resonance. Oh, so this is where you lose your appetite. It's these thromboli or small blood clots in your olfactory nerve. I guess that's how you know you've got the COVID. The most recent likely culprit has been identified as the COVID-19 spike protein released from the outer shell of the virus and into the circulation. Research cited below has documents that the viral spike protein is able to initiate a cascade of events that trigger damage to distant organs in COVID-19. Worryingly, several studies have found that the spike protein alone may have the capacity to cause widespread injury throughout the body without evidence of the virus. What makes this finding so disturbing is that COVID-19 mRNA vaccines manufactured by Moderna and Pfizer currently are being administered throughout the United States program ourselves to manufacture. So what they're saying here, what is especially worrying, that these COVID vaccines are causing our bodies to produce these spike cell proteins. The spike cell proteins, which they are finding are the cause of the organ damage. So how are these spike proteins that break off of your cell wall and travel to distant organs been studied? Well, they haven't been studied. And here we've got a concept of a vaccine. I mean, they can clearly write a hypothesis that producing these spike proteins will cause the spike protein of the virus to lock onto it in an immune response to kill the virus or neutralize it. But they have not studied whether or not these spike proteins will break off of our immune cells who have produced these spike proteins as an antibody or antigen and travel to distant organs and cause distant organ damage, including brain seizures, including stroke and heart attacks, brain inflammation, and blood clots. And if you try to respond to people who start to ridicule you and scoff at you, if you try to raise any concerns, it is almost not worth the effort. The heat of the argument subdues any rational explanation to pro-vaxxers that there might be some risk, and this always seems to be the case with. So I'm truly at a loss as how to conclude, except to say, take your aspirin.